There's a silent frustration many people carry every single day, and maybe you feel it too. It's that deep, unspoken question. Why do people treat me like this? Why do they ignore your boundaries? Why do they speak to you without respect? Why do they take your kindness and turn it into weakness? You try to be patient. You try to be understanding. You tell yourself, maybe they didn't mean it, but deep down, you know the truth. They did mean it. And the worst part? It keeps happening. Again and again and again. But today, that cycle ends. Because in this video, you're going to learn one powerful Stoic principle, just one, that will fundamentally change how people treat you for the rest of your life. Not through anger, not through confrontation, but through something far more powerful. Inner authority. Most people believe respect comes from what you say. They think if they just stand up for themselves louder, argue harder, or explain their feelings better, people will finally understand. But Stoic philosophy teaches something radically different. Respect is not something you ask for. It's something you embody. And toxic people? They are experts at reading energy. They don't listen to your words nearly as much as they observe your behavior. They watch how you react. They notice what you tolerate. They test how far they can go. And the moment they sense hesitation, insecurity, emotional reactivity, that's when the disrespect begins. Let me tell you something that might be difficult to hear, but it will change your life if you truly accept it. People treat you based on what you allow, not what you deserve. You may deserve respect. You may be kind, genuine, and loyal. But if your actions communicate that disrespect is acceptable, that is exactly what you will receive. This is not about blaming yourself. This is about reclaiming your power. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, understood something most people ignore. You cannot control their opinions, but you can control one thing: your response. And your response is everything. So what is the one thing you must do to ensure toxic people never disrespect you again? You must become unshakable in your standards. Not sometimes, not when it's convenient, but always. Being unshakable means you no longer bend your values to keep others comfortable. It means you stop laughing at disrespect just to avoid conflict. It means you stop over-explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. It means you stop giving unlimited access to people who treat you like an option. And most importantly, it means you stop reacting emotionally to people who are trying to provoke you. Toxic people thrive on emotional reactions. They want you to get angry. They want you to defend yourself. They want you to prove your worth, because the moment you do that, you've already lost. Why? Because now they control your emotional state. And Stoicism is about one thing above all else: self-mastery. Imagine this for a moment. Someone speaks to you disrespectfully. In the past, maybe you would react immediately. You'd feel the anger rise. Your heart would race. You'd try to defend yourself, explain your intentions, or argue your point. But now, you pause. You take a breath. You look at them calmly. And instead of reacting, you choose your response with precision. This pause is power. This silence is authority. Because in that moment, you are no longer reactive. You are in control. And control commands respect. Here's something most people never realize. When you stop reacting, toxic people become uncomfortable. They rely on chaos. They rely on emotional energy. But when you give them nothing, no anger, no explanation, no validation, they lose their leverage. And this is where transformation begins. Because now, instead of trying to change them, you change how you show up. You begin to set boundaries, not through long speeches, but through consistent behavior. You stop answering calls immediately. You stop overextending yourself. You stop saying yes when you mean no. And when someone crosses a line, you address it calmly, directly, and without emotion. Or you remove yourself entirely. Let me be clear, walking away is not weakness. It is one of the highest forms of strength because it requires discipline. It requires self-respect. And it requires the courage to choose peace over attachment. Many people stay in toxic situations because they fear losing the connection. They think, what if I lose them? But Stoicism asks a better question. What do you lose by keeping them? Your peace? Your self-respect? Your mental clarity? No relationship is worth that price. Here's a powerful truth. The more you value yourself, and the less you tolerate nonsense, the more people respect you. Now, let's go deeper, because becoming unshakable is not just about what you do externally. It's about what you believe internally. If you secretly believe you need others' approval, you will tolerate disrespect. If you believe your worth depends on how others treat you, you will chase validation. But when you understand that your value is internal, unchanging, independent, everything shifts. You no longer need people to agree with you. You no longer need them to validate you, because you already know who you are. And that confidence, it's silent. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain. It simply exists. This is the energy that commands respect without saying a word. Now imagine living like this every single day. Imagine walking into any room with calm confidence. Imagine no longer feeling triggered by toxic people. Imagine having the strength to walk away from anything that disturbs your peace. That is what Stoicism offers you. Not just philosophy, but freedom. Freedom from emotional chaos. Freedom from toxic validation cycles. Freedom from needing others to treat you a certain way to feel okay. And once you reach this level, something incredible happens. Toxic people either change how they treat you, or they disappear, because they can no longer manipulate you. They can no longer control you. They can no longer access the version of you that tolerated their behavior. And that is the ultimate power. So starting today, make a decision. A firm, unbreakable decision. I do not tolerate disrespect. Not from friends, not from family, not from anyone. And remember, you don't enforce this with anger. You enforce it with consistency, with calmness, with clarity, with action. Because at the end of the day, people will always test you. But it's your standards that determine how far they go. Now, if you've made it this far, it means something inside you is ready to change. It means you're tired of being disrespected. It means you're ready to step into a higher version of yourself. And if that's you, then this is your moment. Subscribe to Unshaken Mind right now. Because this channel is not for the weak. It's for those who are ready to build discipline, master their emotions, and become truly unshakable. On this channel, you'll learn how to think like the Stoics, act with purpose, and develop a mindset that cannot be broken by anyone or anything. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man named Daniel. Daniel was kind, respectful, always willing to help. The kind of person everyone said was good. At work, he stayed late to help others finish their tasks, even when his own work was done. Among friends, he was always the one paying the bill, just this once. In his relationships, he avoided conflict, always choosing peace over confrontation. But slowly, something started to change. People began to take advantage of him. His co-workers stopped saying thank you. His friends expected him to always show up, but were never there when he needed them. And in his relationship, his voice became smaller, quieter, almost invisible. One day, Daniel overheard something that broke him. A colleague laughed and said, "Don't worry, just give it to Daniel. He won't say no." That moment hit him like a storm. But because it was true, that night, Daniel sat alone, replaying everything. And for the first time, he asked himself a powerful question. When did I teach people that this is how they can treat me? This is the moment everything begins to change. Because the truth is, people treat you based on what you allow, not what you deserve. The next day, something different happened. A co-worker approached Daniel again, asking him to take on extra work. Normally, Daniel would smile and say yes, but this time, he paused. He looked at them calmly and said, "I can't take that on right now. No long explanation, no apology, no nervous laughter. Just calm, clear, and firm." The room went silent. Not because he was rude, but because he was different. And this is what most people don't understand. The moment you change your behavior, people notice. At first, they may resist, may test you. They may even push harder than before. But if you remain consistent, they adapt, or they leave. Now let me tell you another story. A woman named Sarah had a friend who constantly disrespected her. This friend would cancel plans last minute, make sarcastic comments disguised as jokes, and only reach out when she needed something. For years, Sarah tolerated it. Why? Because she didn't want to seem difficult. She didn't want to lose the friendship. But one day, something inside her shifted. Her friend made another joke at her expense in front of others. Everyone laughed. And for the first time, Sarah didn't laugh along. She looked directly at her and said calmly, "I don't find that funny." Silence, awkward, uncomfortable, powerful. From that day on, everything changed. The jokes stopped. The disrespect faded. And eventually, that friend either respected her boundaries or drifted away. This is the power of being unshakable. Not loud, not aggressive, but grounded. Stoicism teaches us that we don't control others, but we control how we respond to them. And your response is your power. Let me give you one more story. There was a man who worked under a very toxic boss. This boss would shout, criticize, and belittle employees in meetings. Most people reacted emotionally. They argued. They defended themselves. They complained behind his back. But this man did something different. Whenever the boss lashed out, he stayed calm. He listened. And when it was his turn to speak, he responded with clarity, without emotion, without fear. Over time, something interesting happened. The boss stopped targeting him. Why? Because he wasn't an easy target. He didn't feed the drama. He didn't react emotionally. He was unshakable. This is what you must become, because toxic people don't respect words. They respect standards. Now imagine this version of yourself. Someone speaks to you disrespectfully, and instead of reacting, you pause. You look at them calmly, and you either respond with a short, firm boundary, or you say nothing at all. That silence, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. Remember this: every time you tolerate disrespect, you train people to repeat it. But every time you calmly reject it, you reset the standard. So starting today, decide who you are, decide what you tolerate, decide how you respond. Because once you become unshakable, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your relationships change. And the most powerful part? You no longer need to chase respect. It comes to you. Now, if you've stayed with me until this moment, it means you're ready. Ready to stop being overlooked. Ready to stop being taken for granted. Ready to step into your power. So don't just watch this video and move on. Make a decision. A real decision. To become someone who cannot be disrespected. By now, you already understand something most people never will. You don't chase respect. You don't demand it. You become the kind of person who cannot be disrespected. But now, we go deeper. Because there is a level beyond boundaries, beyond emotional control, beyond simply not reacting. This is the level where you become psychologically untouchable. At this level, toxic people don't just fail to control you, stop trying. Not because you fought them, not because you proved them wrong, but because your presence alone communicates one thing clearly. There is nothing here to manipulate. Understand this. Toxic people operate through patterns. They look for emotional openings. They test reactions. They push limits. And when they find someone who reacts predictably, they gain power. But when they encounter someone who is calm, controlled, unpredictable, they become uncertain. And uncertainty removes their control. This is where you must evolve. Stop thinking in terms of reaction and start thinking in terms of detachment. Detachment is not weakness. It is not coldness. It is not indifference. Detachment is clarity. It is the ability to see people exactly as they are, without emotional distortion. When you are attached, you explain too much. You tolerate too much. You react too quickly. But when you are detached, you observe, you assess, you choose. And that choice is your power. At this level, your silence becomes strategic. Not every situation requires your voice. Not every comment deserves your attention. Not every person deserves access to you. You begin to understand something most people miss. Attention is currency, and where you place it determines your reality. Toxic people crave attention. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter. As long as they get a reaction, they feel in control. But when you remove your attention, you remove their influence. This is why silence is so powerful, because silence cannot be manipulated. When you stop explaining yourself, people are forced to interpret your actions. When you stop reacting emotionally, people lose their ability to predict you. When you stop seeking validation, people lose their leverage over you. And in that space, you become untouchable. Now, let's go even deeper. There is a principle in Stoicism that changes everything. If it is not within your control, it is not worth your disturbance. Most people live in constant disturbance. They are affected by opinions, triggered by words, controlled by external events. But when you truly internalize this principle, you become stable. Grounded, unmovable. Someone disrespects you? You assess. Is this worth my energy? If not, you let it go. Not because you are weak, but because you are disciplined. This is the difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is emotional, response is intentional. And at this level, you respond less because you realize something powerful. Not everything deserves your response. Now understand this clearly. Power is not loud. The strongest person in the room is not the one speaking the most, arguing the hardest, or proving the most. It is the one who remains calm under pressure, the one who speaks only when necessary, the one who cannot be emotionally moved by others. This is silent power, and silent power creates psychological dominance. Not dominance through control, but dominance through presence. When you walk into a room with calm confidence, when your energy is steady, when your reactions are controlled, people feel it. They may not understand it, they may not be able to explain it, but they recognize it, and they adjust, because humans naturally respect what they cannot influence. Now let's make this practical. From this moment forward, adopt these principles. 1. Say less than necessary. The more you reveal. The more you explain, the more you weaken your position. Speak clearly. Speak briefly. And then stop. 2. Never react immediately. Create space between stimulus and response. That space is where your power lives. 3. Detach from outcomes. You don't need people to agree with you. You don't need them to understand you. You act based on your values, not their reactions. 4. Control your internal state. Your emotions are your responsibility. No one can make you feel anything without your permission. Own that. 5. Be willing to walk away at any moment. This is the ultimate power. When you are not afraid to lose people, you cannot be controlled. You no longer react the way you used to. You no longer tolerate what once felt normal. You no longer allow people unlimited access to your time, your energy, or your emotions. But this is where most people stop. And that is exactly why they never reach the highest level. Because there is a difference between being respected and being untouchable. Respect can still be tested. Untouchable cannot. At this level, people don't just think twice before disrespecting you. They don't even try. Not because you are aggressive, not because you are intimidating, but because your presence communicates something deeper. You cannot move me. Understand this clearly. The world is constantly testing emotional stability. Every conversation, every challenge is an opportunity for someone to see if you can be influenced. Most people fail these tests without even realizing it. They react too quickly. They speak too much. They try too hard to be understood. And in doing so, they give away their power. Power is not given. It is revealed through restraint. The less you react, the more people observe, the more people respect. The less you chase, the more people value your presence. This is the paradox of strength. Now, step into this mindset. You are no longer trying to control situations. You are controlling yourself within them. This is what creates psychological distance. And psychological distance creates authority. When someone speaks to you with disrespect, the average person reacts. They defend themselves. They raise their voice. They try to win the moment. But at this level, you don't play that game. You observe the behavior, you assess the intention, and you decide, calmly and without emotion, how much access this person deserves moving forward. Not everything requires correction. Some things require withdrawal because your presence is valuable. And when you remove it, that absence speaks louder than any argument. Silence at this level is not passive. It is precise because you don't know what to say. You are silent because you understand that not every situation deserves your voice. This is discipline. Now internalize this principle. Emotional reactions are invitations for control. The moment you react impulsively, you give someone else influence over your state. But when you remain composed, you close that door completely. This is why control over your internal state is everything. It doesn't matter what someone says. It doesn't matter how they act. It doesn't matter how they feel about you. What matters is this: do you remain the same? Stable, grounded, unmoved, because consistency in your emotional state and predictability in your character builds trust, respect, and ultimately, authority. Now understand the deeper layer. Most people are addicted to validation. They want to be understood. And because of that, they compromise. They tolerate disrespect to maintain connection. They explain themselves to avoid judgment. They shrink themselves to fit into environments that were never meant for them. But at this level, you detach completely from that need. You don't need approval. You don't need agreement. You don't need recognition. You operate from internal validation. And this is what makes you dangerous to toxic people. Because if they cannot control how you feel about yourself, they cannot control you at all. Now let's elevate even further. There is a difference between confidence and certainty. Confidence can fluctuate. Certainty does not. Confidence depends on outcomes. Certainty is rooted in identity. When you are certain about who you are, your values, your standards, your boundaries, you don't hesitate. You don't second-guess your decisions. You don't question whether you were too much or too distant. You act, and you stand by it. That level of certainty eliminates confusion. And when people are not confused about you, they respect you. Because clarity commands authority. Now adopt this final mindset. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be aligned with yourself. Some people will not like your boundaries. Some people will not understand your silence. Some people will feel uncomfortable with your distance. Let them. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is your peace. And peace requires discipline. Discipline in what you tolerate. Discipline in how you respond. Discipline in who you allow into your space. At this level, life becomes simpler. You don't engage in unnecessary conflict. You don't entertain meaningless drama. You don't waste energy proving your worth. You move with intention. You speak with purpose. You exist with quiet strength. And that quiet strength is what makes you untouchable. Now understand this. When you reach this level, toxic people don't just lose control over you, they lose interest in you. Because there is nothing left to manipulate, no emotional reaction, no access to your energy, no control over your decisions, only boundaries, only discipline, only self-mastery. And that is the highest level of power. If you followed this entire journey, part 1, part 2, and now part 3, you are no longer operating at the same level. You see through manipulation. You understand emotional control. You move differently. But this is not the end. This is the beginning of mastery. So if you're serious about becoming mentally strong, emotionally disciplined, completely unshakable in any situation, subscribe to Unshaken Mind right now. Because this channel is not about motivation. It's about transformation. Here you will learn how to master your mind, control your emotions, and develop a presence so powerful, respect won't even reach you. Commit to the process. Stay disciplined and become the version of yourself that cannot be shaken. Become unshaken.